Welcome to Expert Talks by Kalkine TV. Sage here. And today's guest is Lucia Gallardo. She's a co-founder of Eternal's NFT Impact Project. And the team of artists behind this impact project have created metamorphic NFTs inspired by the Amazon rainforest. Designed for engagement, the owners of the NFT become the guardian of the digital space, and the digital object evolves over time with 3 different states. Now, I'm keen to find out more. We will hold that thought and let's introduce today's guest, who is Lucia Gallardo, co-founder of Eternal's NFT Amazon Impact Project. This sounds like an amazing project. Lucia, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to tell you all about it.
Yeah, we really are keen because you don't hear of too many metamorphic NFT projects out there, so you've definitely got a space of your own there. So we'd love to hear more about the innovative brand.
Sure. Honestly, it happened a little bit like an experiment. We were guided at first by a few questions because we saw the NFT market really hit a strong, let's call it a bull run, and we were just curious about how NFTs could be pushed further. And we wanted to test, what they could do in terms of evolution and sort of change according to real-time data. And then we wanted to connect that data to engagement. We wanted to sort of give people a reason to stay connected over time to a particular cause, so that, they could demonstrate their passion for the environment in this case, or they could sort of showcase their commitment in terms of how much they're putting into our community and see their NFT be a reflection of that. So, we were interested in making it as multidimensional as possible. We wanted you to love it because it's artful, and we wanted you to have it as a collectible. We wanted you to be able to play a game with it. We wanted you to be able to use it as a way to measure your personal impact. And then on top of that, we wanted it to be, dynamic and have, more of a reaction to your personal behavior in terms of value. So, if you take this collectible and you sell it immediately, you flip it, as what is known in the NFT market, and it's in state 1, that has a particular value associated to it. The market will set the floor price for it. But if you take it and engage with the community and evolve it into a different state that has more benefits and is visually much more complex, then your behavior has had a direct influence in the value. And I think that that's a very exciting thing to sort of add more layers of sovereignty into this financial instrument, which is ultimately what, the decentralization of finance is about. So we're very excited about the project. We're donating 55% of the proceeds to Rainforest Partnership, which is a nonprofit that's been doing excellent work for over 14 years in biodiversity hotspots across the Amazon and now Mexico. We've also pledged 1% of our secondary sales to offsetting the carbon emissions that we set off with the project in perpetuity, uncapped. So we know the project will become carbon negative at one point, and after that, we'll just be offsetting other projects in the metaverse. So we're also very excited to have made that commitment. And it's just been a great experience all around. We're super excited to launch it, and we can't wait to see what people think of it.
Exactly, and thanks so much for sharing that with us. It's a very exciting time to connect with your brand. And over the last couple of years of the pandemic era, we've seen a lot of value shifts actually. So it's really ironic that your product is actually taking people's nurturing of their physical, or their material belongings, and actually giving that value, because it seems like we're really going back to basics now and actually working out what our mission is in life and what are we doing here. So thanks again. So you've visited the Amazon, would that be correct?
I personally have not, but I grew up in a rainforest. It just wasn't the Amazon. So I grew up in the second largest rainforest in Latin America, and it's just something that I naturally grew up with. our gaming team did grow up next to the Amazon. We have another team member that is currently living in a rainforest in Southeast Asia. So actually our team is quite scattered around the world. Rainforests cover approximately 6% of the Earth's surface, and people would be very surprised to figure out that actually they might have a rainforest very, very close to them. If you're in Scotland, by the way, one of the world's oldest rainforests is located there. It's personally one of my favorites. I have been to that one, and it's just incredibly lovely. So I think we all came together because we care very deeply about what's happening to our planet, what's happening to rainforests. You know, in the past years, we've lost about half of the world's rainforest, so we're down to 6% from what used to be 14%. And so it's just really important to us to have that emotional connection, but also it was important for us to convey that emotional connection to collectors, because even if you've never set foot in a rainforest, no matter where you are in the world, your every seventh breath is actually facilitated by a rainforest. They're super important to our ability to exist and, you know, our ability to regulate climate. And so we wanted to give people, you know, this feeling of you can walk through it, you can hear it, you can see it, you can feel it. The NFTs are actually connected to the Amazon in real time. So when it rains in the rainforest, it'll rain in your NFT. When, you know, there's sunlight, when there's a change in skylight, so if it's nighttime or if it's daytime, all of these things you can experience through the game, you can experience through your NFT. And so it's just intended to really build that emotional connection. And you were right on point with your comment, because when we set out to do this, we, you know, decided that if we were going to be funding the work and of the communities that we're supporting, these Indigenous communities that have been doing this work for a really long time, we had to really adopt their ethos around the economics of it too. And they view a rainforest as a public good, the ones that we're working with. And so it wasn't for us to build a model, an economic model that was consumptive or extractive. We really wanted to build something that redefined what that underlying economic incentive was. And for us, it meant engagement, commitment to rainforest protection as a cause. It meant your ability to amplify this cause, your ability to support this cause. And that is, in fact, a different type of economics that we're hoping to see more of in the NFT space in the future.
Yes, that is so true. And it's great to see so many of these crypto protocols actually getting behind the environmental initiative and growing trees. May I please ask you which blockchain this NFT is on, if it is?
Sure. So we are minting on the Ethereum blockchain. That was a very conscious choice that we've made. We wanted a blockchain that people could recognize the name of and feel a little bit of trust toward that, because it's been around for a really long time. It has a very large developer community. It has, you know, very beginner friendly platforms such as NFT Gateway, which is the marketplace that we are using as a partner. And to be frank, they've been really supportive of this project, the technology that complicated their smart contract requirements a little bit, because we needed the ability to, you know, change the NFT in your wallet. And so they were excellent about working with us in order to make everything happen. You can, you know, pay in crypto, you can pay in fiat. It's a very smooth onboarding process. So we're very happy with NFT Gateway. I'm very proud to be working with them. And then we've taken additional measures to sort of offset that ecological footprint that Ethereum may have. And we were able to work with our company in France called Tresorio, which helped us reduce our carbon emissions from 71 tons about down to 6.8 tons. So we've done a lot of work in recycling the heat that we're emitting, turning it into hot water, giving that hot water to social housing units across France. We've done work in building our own custom layer 2 over Ethereum in order to manage the transactions and minimize our ecological footprint on that front as well. So we've taken very big steps in order to make sure that we're being as environmentally efficient as possible, but still operating within what is currently a proof of work-based blockchain.
Yeah, that's so great that you're gamifying the process as well through the game. It just makes it more fun and allows people to engage with the initiative. So distributed ledger technology has been utilised for databases before blockchain evolved with a currency. You've touched on it a bit. Could you elaborate on how value is created for NFTs, please?
Sure. So, you know, in art, we're from the perspective of that people currently think about the NFT as the object itself. And so we kind of say, actually, the object can be anything. You can turn, a luxury bottle of wine, you can turn a land title, you can turn an ID, you can turn an Eternals plot into an NFT, because ultimately the NFT's value is in the metadata. What you're trying to assign is the verifiability of ownership, the record of transactions that are around that asset, that demonstrate what that traction of value might be. And so it really is this amount of data that sort of revolves around an asset that gives it more value, because you're able to authentically verify, that chain of custody, and you're able to sort of see what that market demand might be, and you're able to see the transactions that have taken place, assigning it value over time. And so really what we're sort of playing around with is this idea that the more transparency and visibility we have into the market dynamics of a particular asset, the more we can better give it value, more accurately price it. And so that's really what the true value to us is about NFTs as a general concept.
That's really interesting how this sector is building a kind of a trustless society. Mm-hmm. That's a really, really interesting aspect to crypto. So NFTs are allowing everyday people to get involved in the crypto sphere, and you were talking about the behavior earlier and how people can interact with these particular metamorphic NFTs. Could you also help us understand what the benefits of adapting behavior to include digital asset collectibles can be for our society, and also is swapping collectibles possible with non-fungible tokens?
Yes. So there's definitely, it's new technology. So we're starting to see just like NFT use cases in every direction. We're seeing, definitely the gamified NFTs are quite popular. Axie Infinity probably being the most well-known gaming application, I think quite just by virtue of mass awareness. Mm-hmm. But there's many others as well. Even like brands are starting to get into this. So Louis Vuitton, for example, just launched their NFT-based game, which is quite adorable, to be honest, and very fun. There's also applications in the direction of like protecting intellectual property that relates to music. Blau being probably the most famous example of consistently putting out music-related NFTs and doing very well. But one of the things that he's doing that's special is he's allowing fans to start earning off of having invested in a particular song, so they earn royalties off of that. And so that's an example of like how value can be returned to the everyday person by simply listening to music that they've invested in, and sort of seeing that return come back to them. You can see, through the gaming environment, you can see the play to earn model, which is, the more video games you play, the more you achieve, you unlock, the more you're earning back in tokens. And then, you can turn those tokens into fiat. And you've seen other and new economic models that are just all related to your relationship with NFTs. And so, these are popping up in the case of movies, in the case of books and literary situations. You're looking at NFTs be associated with land titles, or, my company's personally working on an application in the direction of digital identity and using NFTs to sort of track your identity in a more privacy protecting way over time. So there's really it's a very flexible technology, and I think that's really why it becomes important for people to just dip their toes in the water at some point or other, because it's technology that is flexible enough that it could provide a lot of value in very different directions over time, which means that ultimately what I'd like to see personally is more sophisticated but ubiquitous cases of NFTs around the world. And obviously the more people educate themselves about what they are, what they can be, where their value comes from, who's behind some of these projects, and whether those projects are investable or not, that becomes a very important thing for people that are preparing to look ahead at their financial future, to consider, because ultimately what we've seen is that the economics of this market, though volatile, are still, they're generating a fair return for a lot of people. And so, obviously no new technologies without risk. And I think that's where a lot of the education and measured decision making comes into play. But I think, there is a lot of value and potential value to be derived from NFTs And I think we're just getting to like the very beginning of it. And, our artwork has helped really popularize this technology for a lot of people, but that's just the beginning. We're starting to see very interesting use cases in different industries. And I think ultimately, we're going to be seeing membership based tokens. We're going to be seeing loyalty points sort of transition onto NFT based technology. We're going to be seeing a lot of exciting momentous artwork, interactive artwork, generative artwork, such as that Jonas Lund created recently with Aorist, which is, the more people interact and engage with the artwork, it algorithmically changes the artwork to reflect that. And so ultimately it's taking, I think, something like 512 digital artworks and reducing them down to one, which is the most valuable painting, because ultimately it's the one that people engaged with the most, liked the most, reacted to the most, etc. So super exciting things happening all around.
Yeah, for sure. And I loved how you mentioned fashion adopting this technology as well. Yeah, it's definitely got a use case there. And apparently crypto is being adopted at a faster rate than the internet was. So more people are jumping on crypto than they did on the internet when it first came out. So that's really interesting to see. I'm excited to see where the technology will go. And it sounds like your company is really working on some interesting aspects about keeping your digital twin safe and closely tracked. So be great to catch up with you once that has launched as well. So keeping up to date with this discussion that we have planned, could you help us understand some of the real world problems that Web 3.0 can solve? The interactive technology involved with your impact project is obviously cutting edge, so we're keen to find out a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited about the potential, but I also want to make sure that it's never assumed that there's a causational relationship between impact and Web3. There is no causational relationship between positive social impact and any technology, to be true. Technology is a neutral tool, and the more that we intentionally design, these like reimagined underlying economic incentives, the more that we intentionally look towards solving specific problems, I think that's where the technology gets particularly interesting to me. I've seen use cases that are doing really wonderful work in ocean conservation and trying to sort of bring visibility to, things that are under the water and therefore we might take for granted, such as our coral reefs. I've seen a lot of projects try to, make headway in cleaning up the carbon credit market, try to add more visibility into those carbon credits, where they're coming from, what they're truly, what their impact is of offsetting, and what the price actually should be, or, who is really, offsetting a lot, who, what the mechanics are around that, which I think could be really impactful, because historically speaking, of course, there's been a lot of controversy in the global carbon credit market. I think that there is, obviously a natural connection between decentralizing finance and creating more financial inclusion. As you mentioned, more and more people are adopting, cryptocurrency as a means of pay, because it's a direct form of payment. There's verifiability in the public chain to make sure that, we know and trust where our money has gone, and that there's a lot less intervention of people that can seize our money, which I think is really this what might be motivating a lot of people to switch onto it, is this idea that it's censorship resistant money, and essentially separating this idea that your money should be controlled, or could be controlled by other people. So I think this idea of financial sovereignty and financial empowerment is a really important one that is naturally aligned with the technology. But we're, obviously, as more initiatives in digital identity are resolved, we're going to be able to provide documentation of some form, digital documentation, to identify 1.2 billion people in the world that currently don't hold any document to certify their identity. We're looking at, over 3 billion people that don't currently have an access to a bank account that could be addressed by giving people direct connection to wallets that, hold their money, and then they can peer-to-peer trade it. We're looking at an industry that concerns itself significantly with the environment. A lot has been made about the energy consumption of crypto in recent months, but to be frank, it's a conversation that really hasn't been nuanced at all, because not only do things consume energy, but they're also using and pulling energy from particular places. The sources from which the crypto industry has organically gravitated toward is to use stranded energy, solar and aeolic energy as primary sources. And so, the fact that we're predominantly running on renewable energy is not often talked about. So, the fact that consumption is going to happen regardless of anything, because everything consumes digital power these days. Your phone, your laptop, an ATM, logging onto your bank account and trying to transfer money, or a wire transfer, you going to the bank and actually making that transaction in person. All of that is computing power, and blockchain does not escape that. Everything is in that direction right now. But what we can do is make sure that we are just organically aligned to using renewable sources, making ourselves more energy efficient on a regular basis. And the crypto industry has done this without a single dollar of subsidy. We're not receiving incentives from the government. We're taxpayer money in order to be able to say that the majority of our energy is coming from renewable sources, especially in the Bitcoin and Ethereum cases. But the traditional finance sector has required taxpayer money in order to be incentivized to make those same decisions. So what we're seeing really is that the Web3 space is foundationally and philosophically really aligned with like the general social and economic and environmental well-being of the planet. And I think that that's really going to be a massive opportunity for us to build a better and more sustainable future.
Yeah, the peer-to-peer concept of Bitcoin definitely is a selling point. And I think in regards to the carbon issue and the carbon emissions, since the beginning of the 1800s, when companies started pouring out these carbon emissions, or the middle of the 1800s, we found that these companies weren't accountable. They weren't charged for that pollution. And it seems now that protocols like yours are actually taking some responsibility for the usage that your production is creating. But really, we wouldn't be here if we didn't consume energy. It's just part of life, isn't it? So thank you so much for that. It's very enlightening hearing you share your insights. As we reach the end of the discussion, what do you see as the future of NFTs? And in regards to acquiring NFTs, I think people do require a wallet of some sort of digital wallet. Could you see it evolving to people just needing to scan a QR code to gain an NFT?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on the type of NFT. I think there's some that are always going to require more security features by virtue of the value that they hold. So I think that it'll just be that there are versions of crypto wallets that are just QR codes, right? So that's the user experience. And so I think we're definitely going to be able to see the full spectrum of security options for how people acquire these NFTs. In our case, by partnering with Nifty Gateway, we actually, by creating an account on Nifty Gateway, you automatically get issued a Gemini wallet. So if you've never created a wallet before, you just really go through the same mechanics as you would create a new account on some social media platform, and then you receive a wallet. And so I think that that's going to be very important moving forward to welcome more people into the space. In terms of what's next, I think we are seeing that what crypto did for economics, we see NFTs being able to do for assets. And I think that that's going to be really exciting. We're starting to see use cases around, assigning value to goods, physical goods. We're sort of seeing in the direction of land. We're seeing in the direction of loyalty points and sort of people managing the ways that brands engage with their consumers, changing from just being dollar for dollar spend to being a lot more complex and rewarding people for different types of engagements across the web. I'm particularly excited to see where these like community building membership based tokens go as well, because one thing that we've seen is that NFTs have a very strong power to build collective or community. And I think that particularly excites me because of the precedent it's setting toward sort of encouraging specific types of behavior and building communities around that behavior, like the Eternals is trying to do around sort of environmentally protective and nurturing behavior. So super excited about that. I think we're only just getting started, and we are starting to see a lot of more complex, sophisticated versions of the technology, adding AI to make the artwork more complex over time, to be responsive to certain data. And so I just think it's going to be particularly exciting to see these use cases get more sophisticated and continue to expand in the industry directions.
Yes, thank you so much. You've mentioned so many great use cases today in various industries. We really do appreciate your insights. Thanks for joining us. I know it's pretty early where you're joining us from, so we do appreciate your time.
Yes. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to the next time.
Yes, and best of luck with your launch.
Thank you.
So that was a very interesting discussion if you have just joined us with the co-founder of Eternal's NFT Impact Project, Lucia Gallardo. For the full interview, please head to Kalkine Media's YouTube channel and check it out. Until the next episode, please keep watching for more of these excellent live expert talks and market insights. Stay apprised and invest wise with Kalkine Media.